Test builds or whatnot when I get home today, but I have been watching some stuff. I saw that people were posting best build videos on YouTube now for this new patch or whatever it was, and they're starting to drop Constitution to 1 instead of Dexterity because all of them say that Dexterity is a required skill to play the game, but I don't think that's true to be honest. I basically see the game as kind of four things, okay? Your character build. You're either like a stealthy ambush type person, okay? That's like combat orientated. You're like a super nerd person, which means like you have a lot of intelligence and you're putting a lot of skills into an intelligence stat or something that's more like farming or robotics or something. You have like a fighter character that's like more speed based and combat skill based, or you have a thief, which mainly can be like a really stealthy person with lockpicking stuff, or a fighter type character with lockpicking stuff. That's basically the four things I really see people building, if any, in this game. And here's my thing with with lockpicking in general. It's only mandatory if you're wanting to play the game by stealing other people's stuff. So when all these streamers and stuff are telling you that it's mandatory, I mean, it's not really mandatory. It's if you wanted to steal people's stuff or not. It's not that big of a thing. Like, you can still raid people's bases if you wanted, but you'd destroy everything in the base. It's basically what happened with explosives. And potentially you could unlock something. But it's like, if people are storing a whole bunch of stuff and they're sticking it behind locks, more power to them. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter as long as you can still get access to supplies. And that's what the game is about. Like, you don't have to raid somebody. That's for people that want to get gear and then try to multiply their gear to get more gear. That's why they get mad when they raid a base with C4 or whatever that took them months to acquire and the base doesn't have anything in it because they wasted a bunch of time and effort to try and grieve somebody else to get their stuff. Whereas, like, you can still get stuff from other players from combat fairly easily by baiting them into trying to raid your base and get access to their guns, their C4, all of that, if you want to actually engage in combat. So I don't think it's mandatory. Now, the thing that they're starting to do is people are starting to increase their strength, apparently, compared to what they used to, which is exactly what I did in the past. I increased my strength because it's very difficult to level. I've seen that they've taken things from my previous videos for leveling with wheelbarrows and stuff with strength because that was the fastest thing I could find to do it in the past. You know, I don't see anyone talking about my medical leveling, which is weird because they're still doing it by bandages, which is crazy. There's still an advantage to having medical early because you don't have to level it. But after you get the supplies to level it, it's not that bad. If you're going to be completely honest, like if you got 10 bottles, what I'm thinking, I think it's like 10 antiseptic bottles, and you can refill it. Because I don't know if they've nerfed it or not, but if you can still refill them, then like going to medium medical would be like 50 refills or something like that. I think it's 500 you use like 500 bottles. So if you have 10 bottles, it's going to take you 50 refills. It's not much. It doesn't take any effort to do that. All you have to have is a container full of bottles that you can fill up. I mean, you can take one bottle and go and refill it 500 times and you'd be good. It wouldn't be that bad. It takes like, I don't know, a couple seconds to do it. So where's my phone? Now, you can't really argue that it's not helpful early. It's probably one of the best skills early because you have to put in time and investment to find the items, and you can't guarantee that you can get them. So it's still useful to have, especially early. But I don't think it's mandatory to fully max out if you don't want. Um, let's see here. To be 100,000, and I believe that's at 20 XP. Okay, so that would be 5,000 uses. So if you have 10 use bottles, it's going to be 10 bottle, or it's going to be a bottle 500 times. It's not going to be terrible. All you got to do is stand there and rank this. And for an example, so like thievery, for example, you can level it. You get like 50 XP per locker if they haven't changed anything. It's potential they could buff it at some point, but you're looking at 50 XP per locker. So just to get to medium, you need 110,000, and then that's 50 per locker. So you're looking at 2,222 lockers. Okay. Which sounds like quite a bit, which it is a decent bit of lockers. But if you take into consideration that the main point of the game is this survival focused thing where you're trying to go like raid people's bases and stuff, the same thing applies with gathering loot in general. Somebody has to go gather it. And so going to hit these lockers is going to be the main way to do it. So 2,222 lockers might seem like a lot, but my locker run, for instance, in the middle of the map had something like 30 lockers. So if I take this number and I divide it by 30, I'm looking at 74 runs. Okay? And I can do 2, 3, 4, 5 of these in one day. You know, it's not going to affect anything. Even if there's nothing in the locker, you can still go crowbar it and you'll be good. So 74 loot runs, hitting 3 zones, in a close area. Potentially, you could just alternate back and forth between 2 zones. But those two, let's say that we did 5 runs in a day. You're looking at 2 weeks. 2 weeks of playing the game, and you get medium lockpicking, right? And after you get basic lockpicking, that's where you can use the lockpicking board a lot easier. It also speeds up your crowbarring skill, but also your strength level, it decreases the amount of time it takes your crowbarring skill. So if you really want to, you could get your dexterity leveled and your strength leveled first, and then start leveling your crowbar, which would level up everything else. But it's just 2 weeks of playing the game isn't going to be that big a deal. Like you're not, it's going to be kind of like shooting a gun. Like you're not going to notice that it's taking forever. You know, like it isn't going to be as fast of a rate. It just depends on what you're focusing on in the game. Like medical, for instance, all you got to do is go get those bottles. So if the main focus of your gameplay is to go get those bottles at the beginning of the game, you're going to find that you have a bunch of bottles and it's very easy to level it up. But they're saying that Constitution isn't important anymore and you level it up super fast. So they start at level 1. What they're saying really is that they can level up all their stats AFK using the strength wheelbarrow thing. And if you're playing in the game naturally, anytime that you stop moving, you start eating, you have to rest, you have to build something or cut a tree down, or you don't want to make a noise because there's something around or everything, your constitution's going to start going back down. Whereas if you have higher constitution, it's going to give you the higher HP pulls and everything else that comes with it. But even if you sit in one place for like 10 days, you jog like 10 feet and it goes right back to where it was. Whereas if you don't have that, it'll drop down lower. It was worse before. They kind of cut it in half. The lowering effect used to be like double. So it was actually crazy busted before. But now it's just kind of a little rough and not too bad. But the main consideration there is just that it's not that difficult. And now here's for some comparison, okay? So if you take medium running, you're going to be a little bit slower than most other people, right? If you're trying to go from medium running to like advanced running and you're not like riding a bicycle or doing something to make sure 100% of the time that you're getting like the max value, you're probably getting like 2 to 3 XP a second, which is something like 130, 140 hours of running, which is like constant, non-stop running. That would be 5 days of non-stop running. Well, basically 6 days of non-stop running. A full 24-hour day. You're talking about 2 weeks of non-stop running. Um, if you do 12-hour play sessions, I mean, let's say that you do, let's say 6-hour play sessions. That's 23 days. Okay. Now, take something like advanced medical. It's something along the lines of, I would like to say, it's 5,000, but not hours though. It's keep putting my calculator away. So let's do 1,000,000, and it's going to be divided by 40. So it's going to be 25,000 bottles. Okay, which is a lot. Um, or 25,000 uses, which is a lot of uses. But then we have 10 uses in a bottle. So that's going to be 2,500 bottles to level up medical for the most part. Um, so to go from 0 to advanced in medical is something like 3,500 bottles, which means that the hardest part is acquiring the bottles and then refilling them if the refilling thing is a mechanic and it's still in the game, that's going to be the hardest part about it, just refilling them and then collecting the bottles in the first place. But that also means that after you get the bottles, all you got to do is like when you get on, carry them to a stream or something, fill them up, and then put them in a chest and use them like once a day. How this figures out is like, so right here you have 2,500 bottle usages. Say that you have one bottle and you fill it up and you do it 50 times just with one bottle. Okay. You're going to have to do that 50 times. It won't be like anything super crazy, but you fill up, or if you have 50 bottles, you fill up all 50 bottles and then you go and use it. And it's going to be 50 times. So you could do it all in one day, or you could go and do it through multiple days. It doesn't really matter. But the main thing is it's just bottles and usages. The difference is like with the medical thing, it's going to save your life potentially at the beginning of the game a lot more than running would, especially with bullets. But long term, it doesn't have like as big of an effect as you would think compared to, say, running. Because although you can save your life, I think medium is perfectly fine for medical early anyway, because then you're just going to have the 1 million and you're going to be able to do the 50 and get it done or whatever pretty quick. But when you talk about a running stat, the conditioning stat with these other people, their HP pools and stuff don't matter to them because they think they die really rapidly. But it has so much more to do with survival in general because it has, compared to all the other stats, like strength is your carry load, your physical damage, a little bit of your physical defense if you do the boxing thing, your weapon skills. But it's not, besides crowbarring speed and stuff, it doesn't have a bunch of alternative effects. Dexterity is pretty similar. I mean, it has some speed bonuses, and then intelligence is, it has the squad mechanic basically. It's like the bonus that you get from that. But with conditioning, you have your life total, which you can be like 20% higher, which is already pretty decent, especially if you have armor on top of that. So 20% more life, a bunch more stamina, a bunch more stamina recovery, um, which also means that you can run longer because your stamina is going to be regenerating as you run. Um, More movement speed, which means that you can fight better for melee and range combat. Okay. You can ride bicycles and stuff longer, which means that you're not going to have to stop on a bicycle or anything that often if you only have a bike. You have immunity, which helps you with all your diseases and resistances and everything else. You have your healing rate, which is the big one that they're not talking about, is if your conditioning is low, you lose your healing rate. So when you use medical, the healing rate from medical combined with constitution is really, really strong together and gets you up off the ground way better. Then you have just the overall time that you save with movement speed. Not just compare the 139 hours or whatever it is for medium to advanced running compared to 5,000 bottles or whatever for medium to advanced medical. Like, yes, you're going to need the bottles to level medical, but that's the equivalent of about 20 hours of leveling for that skill. Once you have the supplies, it's 20 hours and it's done, sort of. And you can break that up any day and you can segment it however you want. You can use however many bottles you want. You can still play the game with everyone else, but you will use more medical supplies on your allies instead of just fixing them up instantaneously. Medium, it's only slightly, like it's a little bit worse in advanced, but it's not that bad. And then, so anyway, just consider the 20 hours versus the 139. Okay. So you're already saving like 110 hours, like 4 or 5 days, like full 24-hour days. And then it's decreasing the travel time that you have on the map with running speed and your resting period. So your total overall play time is going to be reduced, or your overall leveling time is going to be reduced because conditioning is having multiple effects over your gameplay. Not even to mention that it also lowers your food and water consumption, which means you have to eat and drink less and hunt less, which means that you're going to have more time purely to play the game from not having to hunt and drink water, as well as reduce travel times. So I would prefer Constitution over Dexterity. Dexterity is going to give you increased movement speed early, which is good, but it doesn't have all the other increased benefits just for being able to lock people's stuff. So, like on my servers, for instance, when it's very difficult to get loot, it's going to be very hard to find guns and stuff in general, which means people are going to have like food, money, like bows, arrows, maybe a gun or like some night vision goggles or something in their base. And you're going to go and take all of your stat points when the game first starts, level 1, put them into lockpicking, go and try and grind out or find screwdrivers and picks and not die, and then find somebody's base and not die, and then plan a raid and not die, and then try and hit that base, get into the base without breaking your lockpicks and stuff, and then finally get into wherever they had their stuff, and hopefully it's inside the chest or whatever that it's in. You know, unless you're hitting like a mega tribe, there shouldn't be like anything that dire that you need in that base for the most part. And if you're fighting a tribe and you're trying to get rid of them, blowing it up works just as well. So in the grand scheme, it's not that big of a deal. And then like medium thievery, you can lockpick the lockers, you can crowbar the lockers, you can lockpick the airdrops, you can crowbar the airdrops, you can get the key cards, which means that you can go and do the kill boxes. And even if you can't do the gold locks and stuff, you can go to the kill boxes and do the silver and the bronze locks pretty easily. You're gonna get like 2 or 4 rooms or something out of it, which is plenty. You don't have to be super greedy when it comes to the kill box. Like all of that's just free stuff and has some of the highest loot drop in the area besides the airdrops. So I think all of that stuff is just a huge benefit when it comes to Constitution that people are overlooking for the most part. Whereas like I can see the value of having advanced medical, but I don't think it's that much to stress over. Like if you have 3 points in intelligence and you go advanced medical, you can do that. It's fine. But you could also just drop like 500,000 experience points below advanced, which makes you weaker than someone with advanced medical early, even though they said that the kill times are super quick, so it doesn't even matter if someone kills you, they're going to kill you, is what they say. But they also say that medical save their lives so many times. My personal experience is I've gotten really close to dying a lot in the past, and having that bonus health ended up saving me to where I could heal and then recover. And then that recovery speed got me to full HP before the people actually pressed up on me. So that's my benefit of it. But let's say you had 3 points in intelligence or something, or you dropped it down, you have like 2.8 or whatever. You drop um your healing down to like 500,000 XP points, which means you're gonna need like half of that time. You need like 10 hours to level it, basically, which is doable. And then you would have, you know, 4, 5 points or something to stick into, um, I don't know, something like awareness that would help you at the very beginning of the game. You know, that you could get access to hunting abilities at the very beginning of the game, which would be very nice. When it comes to like the ultimate build though, with those 4 class types, I think it's a little bit rough to really say what would be the ultimate build because if you're an ambush player, camo and sneaking. I bet.